Hello, welcome back to Up the Villa opposition preview. Brighton v Aston Villa, joined again by Ryan from Talk Seagulls. How you doing, mate?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you, Luke. It's good to be back on.
Yeah,
Yeah, weird one for Brighton. I can't tell how to feel right now.
I mean, obviously we're coming off the back of reaching the semi-finals. You're coming off the back of not reaching the semi-finals. So kind of two different sort of feelings probably amongst the fan bases, really. But how's your season been as a whole so far?
I think if you ask anyone, I'd say it's been a good season based on where we are in the league, and even getting to the quarters is a pretty good achievement based on who we played. We had Chelsea and Newcastle, etc. through the FA Cup. So I suppose, yeah, it's been a good season in terms of results and where we're at. I think in terms of maybe how we've played this season, I've been a little bit disappointed. I think that might be a little bit harsh, maybe, but when you compare it to how we've been in the last 5 or 6 years, the beautiful Brighton way. That definitely doesn't exist as much at the moment. But no, listen, I'm still happy with where we're at, and we're still competing potentially for Champions League, which is absolutely insane. So I can't be too critical at all, but we'll see.
So obviously, you've had a new manager. This is your first season with Hurtzler off the back of Zerbi. How's the sort of transition been? Because, like you mentioned, you have been playing like fantastic football in the past as well. I think you started the season well. You go through a little bit of a blip in the middle where I probably don't think you were as good as probably what you are going into now. Like your form in the Premier League is pretty good now. So how's that sort of transition been?
It's been easy-ish, I'd say. In the grand scheme of the squad getting a lot better. I think you can put a lot of good results down to the fact that the squad is very strong. We put £200 million into the summer window. You come into this season, I think we've been very good. I think on a large part of it, I think when you look at them little blips, I suppose you would say, you would put a lot down to naivety. When you spend a lot of money on players that are still very young, and you've got a manager that is very naive at the top level, it's going to it's going to happen. It's going to have those moments, but I don't know how to say this in a really. I don't want to be too negative, is what I'm trying to say, but I'm a little bit reserved maybe on where we're at this season. We've not been quite as consistent, perhaps, as I'd like us to be, but we're on the back of 6 wins in a row in the Premier League, and then followed up with that point at City. I think those 7 results are very impressive, and if you can get wins across the line, even when you're not playing your best, we've known for years now in the Premier League, and that is how you get yourself up the leagues.
Yeah, so talk to me a little bit about Hurtzler's system then. So formation-wise, what sort of shape does he try and get you into?
This is the fun bit, because it changes. When he first came over, we were really quite confident of this new style. He's a very diversive manager. He liked this new high line, and I thought, okay, could be interesting considering we've got Lewis Dunk starting. He's not the most notoriously fast centre back, especially on the counter when you've got. We won't mention the Forest result too many times, but you can see exactly what happened there, and the Chelsea one where I think we shipped 4 in the first half. We went to a 3 at the back for a bit. We like to stay with the 4 to begin with. Hurtzler promised a bit of an empty midfield tactic, which was interesting. So the 4 has stuck throughout the majority of the season. I'd say we play like how we used to play under Zerbi when we had Caicedo, McAllister as a double pivot. We sort of scrapped that despite having a much better midfield quality now. We've got the likes of Matt O'Reilly, Jorginho, Carlos Baleba, Mats Wiefer, Jack Hinchelwood, Yasin Yari. We've got an unbelievable midfield, but we don't tend to utilise them as much, to be honest. We like to empty that midfield out, put them into half spaces out wide, and then like to overload as much as possible up front. And of course, when you've got quality attackers like Mitoma, Minte, Jorginho, Joao Pedro, it works really, really well when you're playing against a team that's not so prepared for it. And I think you saw against Forest last time out, we were trying to do a similar sort of thing. That tends to be the tactic we use more often than not. But those sort of over-the-top long balls, when you've got the likes of Murillo or Milenkovic, they're going to eat them up all day. So it comes with its naiveties for me.
And who would you say has been sort of like your standout player this season? I mean, Baleba gets a lot of hype, rightly so. He's been phenomenal in the middle, but I really like Rutter. I do. I feel like
Mm.
he's sort of gone up a level for me this season. I think he's played really well for you guys. So who would you say is sort of like your best player?
Best player's hard. I think Carlos has probably been player of the season for me. Again, he comes with naiveties, but his overall profile is incredible. His ball playing is brilliant. His driving forward is fantastic. He loves to progress the ball forwards. I think when he's in the mood to just completely outmuscle anybody, he can. I think he likes to dictate a game on his own when he can. He's very technically gifted as well. He's got a nice little skill set on him. He's good with the ball at his feet. And a bit like how we had Caicedo previously, and he was the one to take over. He had a bit of a year of not really being in the team. I'd say now he's really broken into being that player of, it's his position. But yeah, it's nice you mentioned Jorginho, although I don't know if you saw the game the other night, but it looks like he's done his ankle. So he come off in tears. We can only hope that that's a precautionary or at least a scary one for now, but we'll see. But yeah, he's really come on since his Leeds signing. 40 million bargain.
yeah, as if that now is the thing, like 40 million's a bargain.
Yeah.
Right, so
Yeah,
talk to me a little bit about Tony Bloom then. Like, I heard something like a couple of months ago about him having like this what has he got, like an AI something where he can, like an algorithm, sorry, that he can, like, talk to me about that. Is it true or not?
It's true, yeah.
Yeah.
He's insane. To put it lightly, because it's obviously a big conversation to have, but he's a professional gambler. He's a poker player. So his name in the poker world from the early 2000s was the Lizard. So that was due to him not really thinking. Emotionally, he liked to think with numbers, probabilities, getting things right, taking emotions out, a bit like how a lizard would do, right? And I think that's where he got his name from. 2009-ish, he took over Brighton. And since then, from the likes of League Two, League One, to just going on the trajectory we've been on, there's no real coincidence. I think he liked to straight away implement beautiful football at Brighton. Even in League One, we were playing some of the best football that League One's seen, and everyone was like, "Whoa, this is different." Gus Poyet era, and that's how Brighton, for me anyway, in my lifetime of watching us, we've become beautiful football. When I watch Brighton, I want to see nice football, and of course with Bloom's algorithm, should we say, he's got this thing called Star Lizard. That's his company on the back of his name. I think his base point of it is they've always got the numbers identifying different players before they then make their own decisions with their scouts, obviously getting a gauge of them as a person, etc. So the scouting is absolutely out of this world. Of course, you've seen some of the signings we've made. I think probably the Mitoma one at the moment is the best example of rejecting 90 million in January and signing him for 2.5 million from the Japanese league. It's a quite incredible signing. And of course, that's one of those things that he's done over the years. I think now he's really taken pride in the contingency plan. So, for example, we lose XYZ players in the last few windows. We then have a contingency plan, which is a nice PR stunt move, but a way of saying we've already identified the next target and this is how we're going to replace them. We know the position and sort of profile of player that we're going to go for. And I think it's absolutely incredible to break it down. And that's a really short way of saying it. But yeah, if you ever want to do some research on Tony Bloom, I would highly recommend it because it's fascinating.
Yeah, it does sound fascinating. One player that I always looked at you guys and thought he was absolutely quality was ASENSIO. What sort of happened to him? Like, why is he now at Leicester? What's gone on there?
For a start, he's at Ipswich, but it's close enough because we got Facundo at
Ipswich.
Leicester.
Okay, yeah, Ipswich. Well, they're both playing blue, don't they? So
yeah, they're both playing blue and they're both not great. But I think it's difficult when you have a player that goes straight to being the star. And I think you've seen it with Evan Ferguson, you've seen it with ASENSIO, particularly more so with him, straight to the top and, scoring that worldie against City. And then Julio thought, now because I've scored that goal, it gives me a license to shoot from 30 yards every single time I get the ball. And of course, it don't work like that. It did make him a little bit selfish. I think maybe he had a few attitude issues, was what was told off the pitch and in training, etc. So, yeah, he's had a bit of a not a fall from grace, I wouldn't say, but a stumbling block maybe. He still does really well for Paraguay. But I think here, obviously, our squad has improved so much. He just doesn't get into that team. And he's just that, again, he's a young player. He needs time. He'll get time. But I think he needs maybe a loan or two first before he comes back.
Yeah, why I was thinking of Leicester. So you've got another one, Buonanotte.
Yeah, Buonanotte, yeah.
He's
And Buonanotte,
quality as well.
he's fantastic. He's a different one to Julio for me, because we signed Facundo as a 17-year-old from Argentina. Shy, very, very different to Julio in terms of personality. And if anything, actually, Facundo's problem was maybe not being quite expressive enough and not being physical enough for the Premier League. You could see his class, but I think the loan to Leicester was just to make him this big fish type thing, and maybe give him that opportunity to take that. Yeah, I think he's done it pretty much. It's a shame that he fell out of Ruud van Nistelrooy for whatever reason, as it's sort of halted his season. But Leicester fans always tell me he's been superb for them.
Yeah, he's been brilliant whenever I've watched them play. So you had a bit of a taster of Europe a couple of seasons ago. Where are you at then? Like, what are you looking at as, like, that's what I want, sort of European wise, finishing place wise?
The thing is, right, I could just lie and say, oh, Europa League, I want Europa League, but you see the points and you see the games we got, and even the games you've got, for example. I think the difference in fixtures now this season is favourable to us. And I look at that and I think Chelsea have fallen off a little bit. Man City are very inconsistent. You guys have got to focus on FA Cup. You've got to focus on Champions League. Newcastle are obviously going for FA Cup as well. I think that there's an opportunity for us. I really do. To go for that Champions League spot. Whether I think we need it or even deserve to get there is another conversation. But the fact we could possibly be there, for me, seems like I shouldn't be saying I don't want us to go for it, because why wouldn't you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's I mean, competing in it this season, it's like it's the best. Like you can't.
Yeah, what's it like actually from a fan's point of view?
Oh mate, it's incredible. It's like you're knackered for about 3 days after it, because it's such a big occasion. Like you go to the game and you're like, we've got like tifos, fireworks. It's so intense because every team is so good. But yeah, it's been the best season I've ever had supporting Villa, because we've beat Bayern Munich, we've played Juve. We went into it thinking, yeah, if we get out the initial group bit, that's a good season. And now we're in the quarterfinals. So it's absolutely insane, really. Yeah, so I think if you ever get there or get it this year, it's like it's just something like you've never really experienced. So, what have your thoughts been on Villa this season?
I've liked the look of you guys, particularly in Champions League. I think I've been impressed with how you've gone about it. I told you a bit off air. The balance that you've got used to is very rare, I think, for a club of sort of our stature, for example. I know you're a much bigger club than us, but it's rare you see a team like Villa get to that stage and then sort of still hold their own in a race for getting into Europa League or Champions League again. You tend to have, maybe you'd expect to finish in sort of mid-table spot, but the fact you've still stayed, somewhat competitive whilst also juggling Champions League and going for the FA Cup, I think it's a very commendable position to be in. Obviously, I can't say I absolutely know you guys tactically inside and out, but it seems as though Unai Emery is doing really, really well for you. Some of your signings has been quite shrewd. I've liked the give him a second chance era that you guys are going through right now. The ASENSIO, the RASHFORD signings, it's very FIFA career mode of you, but it seems to be doing really well. So no, I take my hats off to Villa. They've gone about it in the right way. Even if you are considerably richer and bigger than us to be able to do so.
Cheers, mate. Cheers for that. So how do you think the game's gonna go then? Like, what, from your perspective, how do you feel like the pattern of the game will be on Wednesday?
It depends on what Brighton turns up, and it sounds so cliche, but because we don't have this. Before I could come on, right, and I probably have come on your show before and said, this is our style, this is how we'll play, we'll dominate the ball, we'll do this to you. It's not quite the same as that now, and I think it will be a case of on the day, will we be able to overload you? Will you be able to deal with Minte? Will you be able to deal with Mitoma? You could probably answer that question better than I will at this time. I think we rely a lot on our individuals. So, it's a big game for us. I look at this game as just as big as this Forest game just gone. Because I think now we need to focus on the Premier League. Every game is just like absolute final, proper. We need to go for this now. I think if we don't, I think we'll always regret it, especially with the squad we got. I'm not naive enough to say in summer, you say about Baleba, Jorginho, Joao Pedro, these are players that could be snapped off our hands. And I think that's why I'm really thinking Villa, massive game. I think we'll treat it as so. So I think it will arrive to it a bit like a cup final, really. I don't want to sound cliches again, but it's true.
Yeah, no, mate. It's great to have you on. It's great to hear your insights. So, hopefully we'll be talking next season, both in Europe, hopefully. And so cheers for coming on, mate.
Thank you. Yeah, top